Okay, we are recording. Gary Urimovich is joining us, physician assistant, health coach, helping people in their journey to good health. And one of the tools that he uses is CBD. And he's been an affiliate with CBD BioCare for about a year now. And he's joining us to talk about how CBD is used over and over again to help with pain management. So, hi, Gary. How are you today?
Oh, doing very good. How about you?
Good. So thank you once again for joining us. One of the most common reasons that people turn to an alternative turn to CBD oil and are choosing a full spectrum CBD oil is for the results that they're getting in terms of pain and many other conditions. But pain is just a growing epidemic in our country and beyond. And people are realizing that opioids and some of the over-the-counter even non-prescription medications can be extremely harmful. So
Yes.
let's talk about how CBD can be a great option in helping to manage pain.
Right. Well, CBD is very safe, unlike some of the other medications that you mentioned. For instance, narcotics, high addiction possibility, and Motrin, ibuprofen, naproxen. Those are associated with gastric ulcers, GI bleeding, as well as cardiac problems. And so these are not medications to be taken lightly, and CBD is an incredible alternative. We really have so limited numbers of real pain medications out there, and CBD is superb in that. And so one of the interesting things is that there's something called the opioid induced hyperalgesia, which is long-term. But it means that people that are on narcotics, sometimes it doesn't just help their pain, it makes their pain worse. And so that was a phenomenon that has been known since 1870. A British physician said it's paradoxical that this is supposed to take away pain, but it seems to be making pain more unbearable. And so CBD doesn't do that. It doesn't have some of these weird sort of side effects. And it's very effective because of three different reasons. First of all, it's anti-inflammatory. And so if you have arthritis, if you have a bad back, it'll take away the inflammation. The inflammation is feeding information through the nerves up to the brain, telling the brain there's pain here. So one mechanism of action with CBD, it takes away inflammation. And without all the bad side effects as non-steroidals. They take away inflammation too, but they bring a lot of baggage with them. So CBD is effective for pain because it takes away inflammation. That's number one. Number two, there is a chemical that is in the spinal cord that CBD increases. It's called glycine. And so people that have poor amounts of glycine, they have higher problems with chronic pain. CBD affects that enzyme within the spinal cord. So as that information is being shifted towards the brain, it's being muted down with effective amounts of glycine. And CBD helps that, and that's recent research. The other thing is in the brain. It has two different ways. So the tissue, take away inflammation, improve the feedback in the brain from the spinal cord, and then this chemical affects the brain as well. Okay, and so we have our endocannabinoid system, and CBD helps augment that, and that decreases the perception of pain. And so it's incredible that it has these three different ways. Another way is, sorry, I'm sure you heard my dog bark. Sorry about that. Another reason why CBD is so helpful is the emotional component of chronic pain. When I was in practice, sometimes before I knew about CBD, I would prescribe an antidepressant for people that have chronic pain because I knew that would help the pain as well. And it kind of like separates the emotional aspect of chronic pain. And CBD does that too. Mm-hmm. And so someone might say, well, I still have some pain, but I'm not that worried about it anymore because they have some control over that. And so that's important.
That's a really good point. I love that you're making that because, maybe somebody has more intense pain because they're not getting a good night's sleep, right?
That's it.
So if CBD can help you sleep, then if you're getting good sleep, we know that you heal when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
So now your pain is diminishing because the CBD is helping with your pain.
Yeah.
Or it's also, it can help with depression and
Yes.
anxiety and stress. So you're helping exactly what you're talking about. You're helping with these other issues that when those issues aren't managed, then it can actually increase your pain. And it's one of those things, is what comes first, right?
Right. Yeah.
It all kind of works cohesively together. So CBD, it almost sounds too good to be true when I'm talking about it sometimes. And I think people must think we're crazy because we're talking about all the different things that CBD can help. And I have one physician in town that says she gives CBD to she suggests it to every patient because she knows that everyone can benefit because of
Yes.
the fact that it's an anti-inflammatory. We know that so many diseases stem from inflammation, but then
Exactly.
it's what causes the inflammation. But if you can have used CBD, whether it's 10 milligrams a day to help manage
Mhm.
inflammation, or increasing it based on different ailments that you're having, I think that everybody can benefit. And I don't,
Yes.
I always have my owner hat on, but I really am talking to you as a friend, because I think that if everybody could incorporate CBD into their regimen, it's a win-win. I often tell my story, and I'd like you to share your story because we're talking about pain and you were talking about Motrin.
Oh,
So I'd like you
yes.
to share your story. But I started using CBD for sleep, because at night it seems like I wake up in the middle of the night and then I'm thinking about all of these different things, and so CBD really helps me sleep. But
Yes.
it also helps me manage stress. I call it calming the noise because it helps balance everything so that it helps me focus. But the other thing is, when I realized I'm a person that I get headaches occasionally, but because I never considered myself someone that deals with pain, thank you God. But a headache, that's pain. So I took a half a dropper of the 750, and I could probably take less than that, but I took that for a headache and it took my headache away. So that was
Amazing.
such a nice, I thought, oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. So I use CBD for so many different reasons, and those are immediate benefits. So
Yes.
immediately I found results with sleep. Immediately it takes away my headache. It helps me deal with stress. But the
Sure.
other thing is, I'm a woman in my mid 40s, so it also has helped me manage menopausal symptoms,
Sure.
hot flashes, but that didn't happen immediately. That took time.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that it's the CBD that's built up in my system and helping me manage a deficiency, possibly with my
Sure.
endocannabinoid system.
Very good.
So it's an amazing product, and you also have a story in terms of using CBD for pain. Can you share
Oh,
that?
sure. Um, Well, I'm prior military, and so I was in the Air Force for 26 years, and we used to give out Motrin. Thank you. I used to give out Motrin to almost everybody
Mhm.
because they have aches and pains, and Motrin can help that. It's an anti-inflammatory and pain reliever. And so I got used to using Motrin, and about maybe 8 or 9 months ago, um, I was taking Motrin, and I had pain in my stomach. And I thought, well, I'll just take some antacids. And then I started to get weak, and I really didn't feel very well. So I went in to see my primary care provider, and he did a blood test, and I was anemic. My hemoglobin was, it should be over 14 for a male. It was 9.6. That's
Mm.
why I was so drowsy and feeling so poorly. Um, and they did an endoscopy. They saw ulcerations from the Motrin. And fortunately, I'm all better now, but I don't take Motrin anymore. And
Mhm.
my wife was taking CBD because she has cancer, as I might have mentioned before. And she's doing good right now, so I praise God for that. But I never thought about taking Motrin or taking CBD for myself until I had pain and I couldn't use Motrin. And Tylenol doesn't have anti-inflammatory effects, so Tylenol wasn't going to be helpful for me either. And so that's what led me to use CBD, and I'm so glad. One of the things that I think is important is, instead of side effects from CBD, there are side benefits. And so for me,
Great.
I sleep better. I think I'm clearer in some of my mental activities. I used to have brain fog early in the morning. And so all that is because of CBD. I'm convinced of that.
I totally agree. And, I always tell people just try it, be open-minded to something else. Like you, I didn't take Motrin every day or Tylenol, but I didn't think anything of the minute I had a hint of a headache, popped something that was over the counter because I thought it was completely safe. So
Exactly.
I don't want to, there's a place for these over the counter medications. And we're not bad mouthing them, but we're saying there is an alternative. We
Yes.
often think that, well, that's not FDA approved, so the government's not looking at it. That's a wrong way of looking at it. So I've learned. I didn't believe that. I had people telling me about alternatives for years. It wasn't until I started really researching and using CBD and fell in love with the product and thus started a company
Sure.
to promote this product that I really realized that, wow, this is awesome. I take nothing else. There is nothing that I get off a shelf in a grocery store. Thank goodness that's my story right now, that
Sure.
I don't have to take medications. Again, I believe that there's a place for medications, and I commend modern science and modern medicine for some of the discoveries. But what I want people to recognize is there is an alternative that is providing tremendous results for people.
Absolutely.
And just like you were saying, Gary, I mean, you're having results, I'm having results. We have people with much more grandiose conditions that they're finding amazing results by taking a plant product, a plant
Right.
extract. So, just hallelujah that there's something like that on
Yeah.
the market that we're getting the results from. What is it about our body that responds so well? I mean, can you explain the receptors that we have discovered with the endocannabinoid system, the CB2 receptors that are throughout our bodies? How does that work? This may be too scientific for you to
Yeah.
respond to, but how do our bodies respond to CBD oil, and why do they respond so well?
Right. Well, the endocannabinoid system is actually in our genes. So it's part of our genetic makeup that we should have a response to this phytocannabinoid. And so there are different receptors in almost every organ in the body. CB1 is primarily in the brain. CB2 is, skin and pancreas and other places as well. And so there's a chemical, anandamide, that is in the brain. And what happens, CBD blocks the uptake of anandamide. So there is more of it available to affect the other structures in the body. And so that is very, very important. And there's AG2, that's another one of these receptors. And there are more receptors for CBD in our brain than for the various other, like dopamine receptors, serotonin receptors. There's more CBD receptors than those.
Hmm.
And so our body was made to be exposed to CBD. And up until about 80 years ago, it was. Our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, rather, was written on hemp paper. A quarter of farmers' property had to be preserved to grow hemp in order to provide, clothing and paper and things of that sort. And so up until about 80 years ago, we were exposed to CBD, us and other animals around. And so I think we're biologically made to use this. Now, we're talking about pain. And so, for instance, if someone has pain in their joints, using a balm is helpful. And that's the same kind of medication. It's CBD, but it penetrates the skin, doesn't go into the bloodstream. It just penetrates into the CB2 receptors. And so, for instance, if someone says, I really can't use CBD orally, they could use CBD pain balm externally, and that would be helpful for them.
Mm-hmm. Do you use the pain balm regularly?
I haven't had to. The CBD itself works fine for me.
Mm-hmm. Me
Yeah.
too. I take the oil daily, as I mentioned, but we do have a lot of people who use the pain balm. And what's nice about that is it also has some other ingredients that are natural anti-inflammatory. So it's, all of these products that are working
Sure.
together, and it's really a win-win. My husband puts it on his elbow for tendonitis, And it's really helped it go away. So it doesn't even come
That's
back unless he does something and maybe gets a flare up and puts a little
sure.
topically. So it's really exciting that we have something available to us that can naturally help our body recover from whatever we're dealing with.
Yes.
And so that's really a treat. So our mission is very clear: to tell more people about it and educate people through the knowledge that you provide and the knowledge that we're putting out there, so that people feel confident. It's funny, I had one physician tell me that, I prescribe a statin drug to somebody and they don't ask me really any questions, but I mentioned CBD, and that now they have to go research it, and they have to Google it, they got to do all these things. So it's just our society and what we're comfortable with, right? So we have
Right.
something that's completely natural, comes from a plant, you can drink bottles and bottles of it and never overdose,
Right.
but yet we're concerned about it. And I get that.
Yeah.
It's all of us. It's not just a small population,
No.
so
Well, it's because we've been indoctrinated
mhm,
that that hemp, marijuana type of plants, they're equivalent to narcotics.
right.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of that misinformation. And a lot of it is coming from the government as well. And so
Right.
we trust them. And yet, when they tell us something that really does not make sense, we don't question it. And
hmm So let's talk about, we've been talking about pain and why CBD works so well for pain. When someone says I'm fighting chronic pain, they deal with it all the time, what would you recommend they purchase, and how would you recommend they experiment with serving sizes?
right. Well, research has shown that for pain relief, people probably need to take 30 milligrams a day. Some can take far less, some have to take more. And so the standard dose would be taking between 10 to 100 milligrams. And so the standard dose should be helpful for chronic pain. But you have to find that sweet spot, the dosing, the serving size that's right for you, because our endocannabinoid system, the level of arthritis we have, the chronic pain that we've suffered, all that affects how much CBD we need to be taking. And so what I'd recommend is that you get either the 750 or the 1,000 milligram bottle. There's 30 cc's, and then start with a couple of drops under the tongue 2 or 3 times a day and gradually increase it. For instance, I use the 1,500 milligram bottle, and 60 milligrams would be in one dropperful, one serving size. And so I take a quarter of that. Once, or sometimes occasionally, if I'm having a flare up in the afternoon, I'll take it in the afternoon too. But that works for me. And so you have to find the right amount for you.
Hmm.
And it might fluctuate during the day or during the week. So, so people need to realize that if they need a little bit more, that's fine. If they think they can get away with a little bit less, that's fine too. And so
Hmm.
there's no one set. Even once you find your sweet spot, that can change occasionally, and to be open to that.
Hmm.
The other thing we haven't spoken about is that there are some people that have incredible pain and the CBD doesn't work. They would benefit from having medical marijuana with the THC, because that has anti-pain properties as well, and has even more in the brain. CB1 sites respond primarily to THC. And so that's when someone needs to be referred to a practitioner that's credentialed in medical marijuana.
That's right, because sometimes, and the nice thing about a full spectrum CBD oil is that you don't have to go through those steps. You don't have to see a doctor. You can order it online and try it immediately. But to your point, sometimes if that's not working for you, or you feel like you need guidance, of course, people can contact you for that guidance. But
Sure.
in addition, they can reach out, perhaps they do talk to you and you go, if you've tried this and you've done everything, maybe it's time that you do explore the THC component. Some people don't want the THC component or are afraid of the
Right.
THC
Yes.
component, but if you find the right physician to work with, they can help you, because just like with CBD, the THC component, a lot of times they do a 1-to-1 ratio, but is that ratio down here or is it up here? We have people that call us and say, oh, I'm a patient of the dispensary, but I don't want to take more of their product because I don't want to experience that high. So what they do is they take the 1-to-1 ratio with the THC, the CBD, and all of the other cannabinoids. It is full spectrum, but instead of increasing the THC, they increase everything else, and they have fantastic results. Now, again, that's not going to be a one-size-fits-all, but it is something that we're hearing more and more, and it's also something we recommend to people so that they can experiment with again how much they're taking. But to your point, there are times when people need THC, and it's not a one-size-fits-all for the condition. I have people with rheumatoid arthritis who take our product with great results.
Right.
There's some people that need THC. Same with seizures, same with some other conditions. So it's kind of interesting, isn't it?
It really is, yes. Yeah. And I think the other thing is for someone that has chronic pain to look at their lifestyle. And so one of the things I recommend to my patients and clients is that they move towards an anti-inflammatory diet. That means more vegetables, more fruits. They look at their activity level. Sometimes we think if I have chronic pain, I can't do anything. Well, there are things that you could do that help the joints move and help you feel better. And so being active is so important as well. Mm-hmm. And then look to see, do you have a support system? And so having a healthy support system where people are around us that are positive and encouraging, that makes the pain more bearable. Mm-hmm. And the last thing that I often recommend is mindfulness training. That mindfulness, you would think, being more mindful about your pain, how does that make the pain go away? It's because you can let it go. It no longer has that emotional attachment to you. And so you can let it go. So mindfulness training is also helpful for people with chronic pain. But the first step, I think, is CBD, because that clarifies everything. And so I encourage anybody to try CBD. And if they have any questions, they can contact you or me.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, why don't you mention your email address so that people can reach out to you if they have more medical concerns, because of course I don't have the medical background. And Gary can also answer questions in terms of CBD BioCare. He's an expert with our products as well. So Gary, why don't you share your email address?
Sure. It's my first name or letter of my first name and then my last name. So it's GURE, M as in Michael, O, V as in Victor, ICH @gmail.com.
That's great. Well, thank you again for your time today and your knowledge. And, I just encourage people to seek alternatives. It doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all pill that's provided by your physician that could have many, many harmful side effects. CBD does not have harmful side effects and is really proving to be an amazing product. And we hope that this has been helpful information for you and also information that you can share.